Welcome to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast, coming to you from the Cargo District Recording Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we discuss the most fascinating topics of life. I'm Tyler Yaw with my co-host, Chris Keller, and each week we interview a special guest to learn how they acquired their wisdom over a glass of whiskey. So, sit back, pour yourself a glass, and enjoy Whiskey and Wisdom.
Welcome back to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast, where Chris and Mackenzie are going to take a shot of tequila before we get started.
I'll probably be like, I can't talk for a while.
Like Tyler mentioned, this week you got me, as always. Well, not always. Tyler's here always.
There's 1 week that you missed. I'll give you a pass.
Yeah, I decided to go out of town and do a trip.
That's pretty good.
But we have the amazing Dr. Mackenzie.
Nurse practitioner, Dr. Mackenzie Jones, nurse practitioner. Yes, I know it's confusing.
We'll dive deeper into that.
It's a lot.
But Mackenzie is gluten-free.
Yes.
So instead of whiskey,
Thank you.
well, she also doesn't really like whiskey. We are doing Espolón.
Thank you
guys.
Yeah, Espolón. Thank you to our neighbors over here at Azalea Station.
Yes. I mean, I don't hate it. Espolón, I remember back in the day when it was like the tier.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would get the really cheap plastic bottle and then you were like, oh, let's get a shot of Espolón. And you're like $12. And you're like,
Maybe not.
Well, that's what we're back to today.
I appreciate it, guys. And I'll have to drink whiskey.
Oh, I'm down for it.
I'm still on 75 hard, so.
Good for you. Proud of you.
Well, cheers.
75 soft next.
Yep. Cheers.
Thank you. That's good.
What?
You really wanted me to shoot it. Yeah, I'll sip. Y'all are like, lame. Okay, fine.
So,
Chris is 3 drinks in and a shot, so this will be a fun one.
we started it and she was like, oh, I'll take a sip. I'm like, I thought you were shooting it. Because she mentioned she was hanging out with a friend and he gave her some tequila and they were like, here you go. And she just shot it straight.
Yeah, that was back in my prime.
It was like 2 years ago. So I thought we were taking shots and
he was like, no, you're supposed to sip that for like 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, well, you should have led with that.
So sipping tequila typically is like añejo or like a higher.
I wish I could remember what it was. It was something.
It was good stuff.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Smooth stuff.
Espolón's decent. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm going to have to take a shot, I would much rather do Espolón.
Yeah.
Than, what was
I always just was like, house nasty, whatever that is.
Yeah. At least Espolón has a little flavor.
I feel bad they made you do tequila. You don't even like it. So,
Mackenzie.
Yes.
You go by Mackenzie or Mac or Doc?
So you can't call me Big Mac, but you can call me. I was like, when I was in 6th grade, I played basketball and I was the center. And so I was literally like this tall when I was like 12.
Okay.
So they all called me Big Mac. And then I was like, please don't call me that. So yeah. So you can go, Mackenzie's good.
Okay.
Kenzie, there's so many.
I was this tall in 7th grade.
Yeah. So did you play basketball?
I tried. Didn't make the cut by like 1 year. 2 years? It was in high school.
Yeah, I hated softball. I was terrible at that, but I was pretty good at volleyball and basketball. Okay. Yeah. And then I've heard pickleball is the next thing, but I'm like, I'm not giving in.
You're not old enough to play pickleball.
I feel like everyone is, though. Like even our age, they're like obsessed with it. And I'm just like,
Is it pickleball or golf?
Yeah, I play golf.
I hear that's an expensive sport to get into.
Well, I took it up in COVID because I'm like, what the hell,
Well, you can't be around people.
Yeah. I know. I was like, I'll just go outside and swing this club.
That makes sense.
It was fun. Yeah.
Do you still play it?
I probably play with my supervising doctor. We play about every month. So, yeah. Yeah, it's fun.
One day, someone will invite me to come out there and play golf.
Well, you can come with me.
I will carry your bag.
You'll be my caddy.
Yes. As long as I can
You're
drink.
like, hit this one.
Oh, I will. I'm good. I'll pull it out. I'm like, Legend of Bagger Vance. Well, ma'am, I think you should use this 5 wood.
And I'm going to be like, 100 yards from the green. I don't think so.
Well, here's a shot. Let's just go off.
Yeah, funny thing about my name, I'm actually named after the designer who designed Augusta. Yeah.
Oh, no way.
So Albister Mackenzie. So that's where I got my name. So big golf fan.
So wait, are you from Georgia?
No, my dad wanted to name me Augusta. My mom said, heck no. So I was like, thank you, Mom. So they came up with
Appreciate
Mackenzie.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's cool.
So wait, where are you from?
High Point, North Carolina.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's why I got my little twang.
I mean, it's not that bad.
Yeah, it went away when I came down here. It's like
I believe it.
a
Yeah.
bunch of Northerners down here.
The furniture capital of the world.
Yes.
For many years.
We have a lot of nice furniture because my husband's grandpa, he makes us literally everything. We have this like nice couch, table. So
wow.
he's just like, here you go, guys. We're like, oh, thanks.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I need an ottoman.
Okay, he'll make you one. He will make you one.
I love that. So we're starting at the top.
Okay.
My brain was thinking, I was like starting at the bottom. I'm like, no, that's lame.
Start at the bottom, now we're here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't like Canada. It's too cold. So we're going to start at the top.
Okay.
You're from a High Point.
Yes.
You came here to UNCW.
Yep. In 2009.
Okay.
And then I actually wanted to transfer to Chapel Hill. I always wanted to go, I know, right? I always wanted to go to UNC. And I got here and I was like, heck no, this is awesome. So
Hard to leave.
Yeah, right. I was like, this is the place. Yes, I stayed here for 4 years, graduated, and then got a job in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved up there, and I told him I lasted about a year and a half, and I was like, this isn't for me. So came on back. Been out here ever since.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you realize that our football team is better than Carolina's. Is
For
that
sure.
what's-
Like, it's never lost, right? Record's good.
I haven't used that line yet.
I think there's a shirt, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or it's like
Yeah.
undefeated since
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Awesome.
So what did you go to school for originally? Because I've learned that just because you got a really long initials behind your name, you don't originally start that
Right
way
there.
sometimes.
Yeah. I actually knew probably from like since middle school, I wanted to be either a teacher or a nurse.
Okay.
And then when I went to the guidance counselor, they said, if you can do the gross stuff, you should be a nurse. I was like, okay, I can do that. So I got my bachelor's of science in nursing, so like nursing degree.
Okay.
And then I started working in the hospital, was doing 12-hour shifts, working holidays, and I was like, this isn't going to fly.
Yeah.
So then I decided to go back to school to get my nurse practitioner. So I started that in 2016.
Okay.
And I picked ECU because I was like, let's switch it up a little bit, you know? Yeah.
Go Pirates.
Go Pirates. That's it. But it was like a hybrid.
Yeah.
So I went like 3 times a semester max. So
Oh, that's not too bad, though.
yeah, it was like, good in between.
The hospital up there is actually really good.
Yes, for sure.
It's not part of Novant, so it's better.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, what is it? What is it up there?
I forgot.
Vidant.
Vidant.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I went to ECU for a semester and I was like,
Okay.
y'all expensive. So I came back here.
I thought you were about to say I had too much fun.
No. Everyone thinks, they're like, oh, you went to ECU, you drank a lot. And I'm like, surprisingly enough, I only drank twice my whole semester there.
That's awesome.
Chris was like, I was in the Army. I drank enough there.
That was years later. Surprisingly.
I
enough.
always forget how, like, the break in between.
Yes. No, I was at ECU, ran into a guy who was a veteran. And he was like, oh, hey, come drink. And I was like, shh, thank you, sir. We smoked hookah and drank. And that's why I did not drink anymore.
After that, you're like, nope, good.
Yeah, that was good enough. So we had somebody on last week, a couple weeks ago, who's a nurse practitioner.
Would I know her?
You probably do.
Anka Roberto.
Oh, yeah. And Tammy.
Yep.
Yeah. They're
Okay.
awesome. Yeah.
So you established your titles at the beginning. Please explain.
Yes, I will. Oh, and I have to give Tammy a shout out because she hooked me
Yeah.
and Tyler up. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where it gets confusing. Okay. So let me know if it doesn't make sense. So you know how like physical therapists, they are getting their doctorate in physical therapy.
Yes.
So like you can say doctor so-and-so physical therapist. So that's the way they're moving with nurse practitioners. You can still get your master's, right? And just be, your name and then nurse practitioner. But now they're pushing us to go get our doctorate. So it's very confusing for people because you're like, I'm Dr. Mackenzie Jones, but always nurse practitioner. If you leave that out, people get really mad, which fair enough. Maybe like if they went to medical school for 12 years and you're calling yourself a doctor without like saying, hey, I'm a nurse practitioner. So I've had many discussion with that. And like, I think California, it's illegal. You can't say, even if you have your doctorate, you can't say doctor, nurse practitioner.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think someone actually just got sued for that. So I called my lawyer. I was like, I've been saying doctor, like I have my doctorate. And he's like, oh yeah, it's fine if you're in North Carolina. I'm like,
Wait,
Oh,
cool.
that's crazy.
so do you have an MD?
So it's doctor of nursing practice
Yes.
and then family nurse practitioner. So it's like I got my master's and then I got a doctorate. And it was like
Okay.
9 more months, so it wasn't anything crazy.
Oh, that's not
But
bad.
hey, I'm like, I worked hard for that.
Exactly.
It's like, was it fun?
Right.
I mean, I asked my friend the other night. She was like, "Oh, I'm going back to school," and I said, "Why?"
Yeah, no.
And she looked at me. She's like, "Well, I like my job, but I want to do something else in the
Yeah.
world." I'm like, "But still,
But I went back I had to go back to school. I was like, I need to get certified in functional medicine. I've kind of just gone off of, my symptoms and what I've learned along the way.
Right.
But I was like, I need to, and it's been really good for me. It's really gone back to the basics. And so I'm about to be certified and then I'll be done with school for a little bit, probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you're like
But I'm a
anyone,
nerd,
I was gonna say, if it's like anyone else that I know,
Yeah.
especially in like the functional world,
Yeah.
like there's
just love
nonstop,
learning. Yeah, yeah.
learning all the time.
Yeah, there's so much out there. You're like, okay, I think I, know enough. And then you're like, wow, I could always learn more,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like me and watches. People come in and they're like, "Oh, hey, don't you know this? This Value
'cause you work
something
at
something."
Reed's, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, "No, I wasn't working when that movement was produced. I don't know anything about that."
It's always something, yeah.
Yeah. Always something you can find out about.
Yes.
So how'd you get involved on the functional side?
Yeah, so I can kind of give my backstory if that's helpful.
Yeah.
So I was like really sick most of my childhood. I had antibiotics a lot. I had a lot of ear infections. By the time I was 5, I was diagnosed with asthma. Fast forward to like 16 years old, I was on 7 prescriptions, and they just kept saying, "Oh, you have allergies. Oh, you need this, or you have IBS. Here, take this." And so, really sick, a lot of that. And like looking back on it, I didn't even have like a memory of my childhood. I think because I just had so much brain fog and like memory issues. My mom would be like, "Remember that?" And I'm like, "No, it's crazy." So then I went to college, UNCW, and that was when I was 18. And it was Halloween. I remember my now husband, is like, "You good?" And I was like, "No, my stomach is not okay. Like, I think you need to take me to the hospital." So he takes me to Cape Fear emergency room because I knew not to go to the big one, right?
Right.
And so they admit me. They're like, "Oh, you have ulcerative colitis." And they were giving me like opioids for the pain, which, I mean, it was painful, but I was like, I don't need all that. You know what I mean? And then I was put on like antibiotics, antifungals, the whole 9. I was telling Tyler, I was like in my dorm room, like so sick, like living on the top bunk. I was like, this isn't going to fly. So I call my mom. She comes and picks me up. And she's like, "Hey, so, you've gone to all these doctors. No one can help you. I've heard of this guy in Winston-Salem who's a functional medicine doctor." And we were, of course, at that time, we were like, "Well, I don't know what that is." But he takes a different approach. So, let's go see. So I went and saw him, and he took one look at me. He was like, "You're eating foods you're reactive to, so gluten." So I had to cut that out. And dairy. And he put me on like a few supplements that I was malnourished. I had like hypothyroidism. And really that's like what started my journey because I felt better, no joke, within like 2 weeks.
I'm so sad you can't have ranch.
Well, there's fake ranches. There's vegan ranches.
Yeah. There's some better ones out there.
Yeah, but I can cheat a little bit now, like feta, like goat cheese. Yeah.
I could live without buns and bread, but ranch.
I'll bring you a vegan ranch, see what you think. Well, I won't tell you it's vegan.
Oh, I don't care. I'll try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most people, I'm like, after they eat it, I'm like, yeah, that was gluten free, and they're like, what?
Oh yeah. So my wife, we gave up on like buying the ranch from Hidden Valley because we went through it so much. We're like, oh, let's just make it ourselves, which tastes just fine to me.
Yeah.
Have you had the avocado ranch?
Is it Tessemae?
I think it is.
That's the one I eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Very good.
Yeah, it's 75 hard. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Tessemae.
Yeah, it's
like
like
I've
at
seen it
Whole
before.
Foods.
Is it
Yeah.
like a
And my
weird,
son's allergic to everything. So we always
Yeah.
have to find alternatives to
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
We're in the South.
There's
Ranch
ranch
is-
everywhere.
Right.
It's like ranch or blue cheese, right? For your no, never blue cheese for me. No, heck no. But for like the wings, right? Yeah, at our church, there's like people are like ranch or blue cheese team, and I'm like,
Yes.
there's way more ranch for sure.
Way more ranch.
Absolutely.
Random note: did you know that ranch was supposedly created by a black guy?
I did not know this.
Did not know.
Yes, I
Was
saw
he in the
that.
South?
He was, well, I guess technically the South. I think it was more like Western. But
Okay.
he had a white wife, and he was. My joke in my head, like the story I play is like she brought him mayonnaise, and he was like, "Yo, this is boring."
Like,
He's like, "Let's spice this up."
What is it, like dill, or what do they put in it?
There's dill and salt, pepper, a bunch of random
Yeah.
stuff.
But hey,
Someone got
mayo's
Chris
good
on
too.
food
Yeah.
already.
I was like, Chris
It's
is
only
hungry.
it's only the beginning. He's always hungry.
It's the running joke that I always get hungry, and I'm like, "Nah, I'm fine."
Hey, you're around good restaurants.
True,
That's very true.
but because we're around good restaurants and you can't eat everything, tell us a little bit more about like how functional medicine like works into like an everyday life?
Yeah, I would say really I focus on sleep a lot. I'm like, I put my phone up by like maybe 8 p.m. Like I'm not, going to do anything stressful or like look at the news or anything that's going to raise my cortisol, right? And then I just, hang out with my husband or dogs or read a book or whatnot. And then I try and be in bed literally by like 9:30. I know. And I'm usually asleep by 10, the max.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just, trying. So you try and have a, just a relaxing night where you're not like, I think a lot of times like that's when we get our second wind and like, hey, let's, knock out some work. Like I did this the other night and I was like, why did I do that? I was like up till 11, like cranking out some work, and I'm like, no. And then I was exhausted and like worthless the next day. Right.
See, my wife thinks I'm crazy because I do that all the time.
Yeah. So your cortisol is like spiking up again at night because the light from your computer and your phone is like, confusing your brain. So it's the melatonin that's supposed to be being released is like, wait, there's like all this light around, right? Like I'm on my computer, I'm on my phone, and then your body's like, I'm confused. Am I supposed to go to bed or not? So that's why like getting off the phone or like putting on like blue light blockers, they block that light. And then I always say like if your sleep bus comes, right? So like my sleep bus comes like 9:30, like so go get in bed and try and fall asleep. If you miss your sleep bus, the bus is on. You're gonna miss it, right? You might not go to sleep till 11 or 12.
That's interesting. That's how my wife is too. Like if like she'll be tired, but if she's still doing something, then she's like up and awake and just like moving around. And I'm like, okay, I'm about ready to go to sleep. So
and my husband's like, you're being crazy right now,
No, my wife hates it because we'll do dinner because I get off about 8 o'clock. So we'll eat, we'll chill. Yeah. And I fall asleep watching TV, sitting on the couch. And she's like, oh, I wake up at 10. I'm like, hey, you should go get ready for bed. I will wash the dishes, hop in bed, and be asleep within 30 minutes. And she's so minutes. Mad.
Yes. Same.
I also got to figure out how to stop snoring.
Well, this might be like too hippie, but if you want to look into it, it's mouth taping. Have you heard of that?
I heard about that.
Yeah. So it's weird. So if a lot of us are used to breathing through our mouth, right? So we're on our phones all day. We're looking down, our head postures forward. And there's actually someone I want to hook you up with who would be on this podcast. It'd be great talking about it. She's a dentist and has looked into it. It's really cool. Anyway, so all of us are like looking forward, our mouth's open, and we're not breathing through our nose. Well, our nose puts us into parasympathetic, like, into being feeling calm. It actually has nitric oxide, which is good for like blood pressure. So anyone who has like hypertension, right, that's could be maybe where from it's coming from, like, feeling tired. And so if you tape your mouth, you literally have your body's like, oh, okay, in order to breathe, I have to breathe through my nose. So then you're getting that nitric oxide, you're getting into parasympathetic, because you're breathing through your nose. So I used to do like a whole piece of tape and it would hurt in the morning when I'd take it off. And now I just do like a tiny little piece and I sleep like a baby. It's crazy.
Well, I keep seeing this stuff on Instagram that that they sell you tape for nighttime so it doesn't like hurt pulling it off. Yeah. It's called hostage tape.
No.
So Chris is like, can you do something else?
Right.
So like my ancestors are saying no.
No hostage.
Like, no.
It's been
I don't think I've seen that one though.
No. It's been a thing. Like anytime I get my hair cut or anything, if too much air going into my nose, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was a thing, which is really sad because I want to go skydiving and I'm like, there's no way to do that. Pay
attention to if you like have your head forward or if you're breathing through your mouth, so you can retrain yourself to breathe through your nose. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
It's I will say it's very interesting because like we've had second or third functional med that's been on and everyone teaches me something different.
Oh, there's just so much. Yeah. And I mean, I could talk like probably for like a day about functional medicine. No kidding. Yes. Like, just keep going.
And that was something that, like, we talked about when we met, too. Like, all of the functional doctors really aren't, like, in competition with each other because they all focus on something so different or they can help in a different way.
Right.
And like I think that's really cool.
Yeah, Dr. Rutledge, like, me and her are friends. They're like, we're both have functional medicine practice at Wilmington, and we're like, hey, more the merrier, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit a point and you're like, well, everybody needs something, and it's not always the same thing.
Right. And you can always do something for your health, right? That's what I found out. Yes. For sure. Because I'm like, oh, I'm good. I've done this for 15 years for my own health. And it's always like, I find something else,
Yeah.
Like, surprising.
I mean, Wilmington has hundreds of regular doctors and
not many functional.
No.
Yeah.
Allopathic doctors, as Dr. Hillary would say.
Yes. Allopathic.
Regular doctors would technically be a functional doctor.
You're like, yeah.
I feel like functional doctors are a step above. Like they're not regular. They would be more like.
That's
There you
right.
go.
That's right.
In my head, I see them as like specialized. Like when your doc is like, oh, go see this guy or go see that guy. Because remember when we talked to Sarah, she was like, it's always this circle. And you got to find like something that'll break you out.
Right.
And I feel like you guys are the breakout where
Well, yeah, we tried to.
you find that spot and you're like, oh, let's go here.
Yeah, come over here. Yeah. I mean, I think that's like the first appointment I have with people is like, hey, let's do the basics first, right? Because I think a lot of times we can get into like, we're almost as bad as traditional medicine. Like, here, take these supplements, like, take all these protein powders and things. And it's like, hey, if you're not doing the basic stuff, unfortunately, you're just going to be like out supplementing, forever. So out supplementing a diet and everything. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what we work on the first appointment is like, okay, you don't have to do all this at once, but like if you're like, hey, I'm not going to work on sleep, I'm like, cool, that's fine. Let's talk about your diet or let's talk about your exercise or, stress management, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to do it all at once. Like just pick a thing, focus on it. You'll be like, wow, I feel a lot better just doing that, and then you keep peeling the onion.
Yeah.
What did I say? Yeah. Peel the layers.
What's something that you see the most in your practice right now?
Probably stress. I just feel like so many people are just like, they never take a break. They never like take a deep breath. You're like, you realize our cells need oxygen like to function.
Yeah.
So if you're literally like, all day, like, and because you're in fight or flight, right? So when you're stressed, your cortisol's high or it could crash and be low. But you're in fight or flight and just going. And eventually your body's going to be like, nope, can't go anymore, and that's when people get, fatigue, brain fog. I mean, all sorts of symptoms. Right. And they're like, yeah, hey, help me. And I'm like, hey, let's just like take a day off. Like, can you, or even if you can't take a whole day off, like how about just chill for like 2 hours on a Saturday? And people look at me like, I can't do that. Yeah. And so you have to like coach them through, okay, well, let's just do 30 minutes, like just like meet them where they're at kind of thing.
I feel like I was thinking about this the other week because I threw my back out and I was like,
Not fun.
I literally can't go to work. But the way capitalism has set us up is that it stresses us out because you have to pay for so much. And then you're like, oh, I can't miss a day. I got to do this. I got to do that.
It's really our society. It's culture. Yeah, for sure. So it's like in order to be healthy, you have to be countercultural, right?
Yes.
So that's how I've set up my practice is to be more like community and like a membership where it's like, hey, you have all these people like walking it out alongside you and you have other, patients too. So that way you're not alone because it can be lonely sometimes when you're trying to be healthy.
Yeah. Tell us how you kind of came up with that idea to kind of build that community around kind of being healthy and building a better life for yourself.
Yeah. So I think when I look back over, functional medicine for myself, I really had my mom who kind of like spearheaded it. Like she was like, oh, I'm going to get healthy too. So I had her to like call and talk about it. Yeah. But a lot of times I was like, man, it's like just me, or I felt like it was just me. I mean, I know it's not. But I feel like when you get in community with other people, that's when you're like, hey, like I can't figure this out, or like I can't find anything good to eat. Like, where do you go to eat, and then it's like you're bouncing things off each other, so I think that's really important because people just fall off the bandwagon. They're like, oh, I tried, like didn't work,
Right.
And I'm like, no, let's like help you not fall off the bandwagon.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you approach a client or a patient that comes to you and they're talking about that stress because society almost tells you to be busy, right? Because like if you go up to someone like, hey, how are you doing? Busy. Like, oh, good, you're crushing it.
Yeah, and it's like, good job.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, almost like a medal,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how do you talk to someone to say like, it's not like that medal. Like we do need to take a step back.
So yeah, I'm like, we were meant to work, 5-6 days a week and then take a day off. So, I encourage everyone to do that. I also think having really good morning routines and night routines. So I'm like, I'm not telling you not to go work and, meet your goals and, hustle and all the things. But if we can do even like 15, 30 minutes of like wake up and not just run to your phone and be like, oh, and like, then you're already in that cycle of like, I got so much to do on my to-do list, right? Yeah. If we can like, get up, go outside, get some sunshine, that already is going to release melatonin for that next night, right? It's like really resetting your circadian rhythm. I know, crazy. So I'm like literally, hey, just go outside, sit on a chair, sit on your couch, sit on the ground, whatever, read a book, meditate, gratitude journal, whatever works for you. Take some deep breaths, and then you're kind of prepared for the day, And a lot of people I see drink coffee right when they wake up. Not against coffee, right? But that's also spiking our cortisol, and it's literally hitting our adrenals, which I learned about from Dr. Rutledge, right? Yeah. So it's like hitting our adrenals. That's like more, like adrenaline, cortisol. Let's go, and then our body's like, oh my gosh, again, So I'm like, hey, let's try and eat some protein first. So that could be oatmeal, eggs, bacon, right? Like any sort of protein, and wait at least 30, 60 minutes if you can before you have your coffee. And that way it's really just like resetting everything. And then your body's not like, bam, caffeine right when I wake up.
That makes sense.
I think it's funny too how a lot of people think that success or the way to hit success, right, is like waking up and exactly what you said, grab your phone, start work right away.
Go, yeah.
But Kristen, I have 2 coaches and a therapist, and they're much more successful than I am. And none of them do that. They all, like you said, have a morning routine that's at least an hour long. Yeah. And none of that involves a screen at all. Yeah. And it's working out, eating, meditating, or
then it just gets you in the right headspace too.
Exactly, yeah. And then especially with 75 hard this time too, I do no screen time until I get back for my first 45-minute workout. That's awesome. When I get back, then I'll eat something. Ready, right? Yeah, then I'll eat something and then I'll have my coffee. Yeah. And I used to need like 3-4 cups of coffee a day. Like it was embarrassing. Yeah. And now just waiting. And
you probably had brain fog still in the afternoon, right? Because it was crashing. Yeah.
And just waiting, I need less coffee when I drink my coffee later. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting.
I guess I just raw dog life.
You don't do coffee?
No.
Well, not coffee. You do energy drinks sometimes.
So I grew up in a lovely Southern household. So we did not drink caffeinated drinks. Good. Very minimal red dye.
Oh, that's good.
And I was like, oh, this is great. And I didn't, like, everyone talks about it, but they don't realize, like, your parents made you do this, but you didn't know the actual reasons behind it.
Right.
And some people have like I knew a kid who literally in their notes was like, you can't have red dye 40 because they will go off the charts.
That's the problem with kids nowadays anyways, right?
Yeah,
like, look at their school lunch.
But I get up and I'm like, everyone's like, you didn't have caffeine? I'm like, I mean, I'll drink it, but I don't need it.
Yeah.
And then
it's like, why do you want to, rely on something like that,
But I was also born in the middle of the day, so I love my nap. Everyone's like, why do naps are for
How long
lazy
do you nap
people?
For?
If I get a nap, it's like 30 minutes to an hour. Yeah.
I just think most people overnap and then they feel groggy. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you get like a 15, 30-minute nap, that's good. Yeah. But if you're crashing in the afternoon, it's probably your cortisol too.
Oh, no, it's definitely my cortisol. For sure. I wake up with my wife at like 6:30 and then I'm like, I'm kind of tired. And then I want a nap midday.
Yep. So go outside. When you wake up at 6:30, go outside.
But I have to get her stuff ready.
Who?
I'm a really great husband.
Oh, that's sweet.
I actually get her
stuff
ready.
Give me 5 minutes. I'll be back.
I could. Potentially.
See, I coach you through like, hey, just tell her you need 5 minutes. Right?
I mean, she probably wouldn't notice if I went outside.
Yeah, it really does help. Like, interestingly, grounding, like just putting your feet in the ground. I haven't like totally researched it, but like the electromagnetic field of it, I don't know, is very, very good for you too.
It's funny. I was just listening to a podcast about that. Yeah, with Gary Brecka.
The science is wild about it. Yeah.
I've heard so many people, like, over the past few years, who are like, it was a big conspiracy as to why we're all wearing tennis shoes. Because they're like, well, the rubber in your shoes insulates your body so you're not connected to the earth.
Fair.
But it also goes back to, like, you should go outside and, like, take your shoes off and just connect to the earth.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, just, like, get in nature, right? It lowers your blood pressure, brings your getting out of fight or flight, you know? Yeah. So, I just think so many people are stressed and it's just like, hey, how can we just, like, make a little space there, or, like, work on morning routine. If you're like, that's good enough, I'm good, then don't worry about nighttime routine. But I think a good nighttime routine is good too,
Nighttime routine is the hardest thing.
I know. Because that's when everything's on TV, right? Like all the good stuff.
Prime time news.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, one, I don't watch the news.
Yeah, I definitely don't watch prime time.
Too stressful.
Yeah.
I've been trying. My wife looks at me stupid half the time because I'm like, all right, it's 10 o'clock, time to go to bed.
Yeah.
She's like, what? I'm like, no, you need to start.
Yep.
Because after talking to Dr.
Rutledge. Yeah.
I feel like there's an H in there for some reason.
Hillary Rutledge.
Oh, yeah, you're doing the H for Hillary.
Yes. But after talking to her, I'm like, you got to have a cycle. And if we start trying to go to bed and forcing it, 'cause she still has to shower, she has to do all this other stuff, it gets you in the mindset to, like, start.
Yeah, your body's ready. Like, oh, I remember this. I've done this before.
Yes.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, and then, like, some people, I'm like, hey, you might just, like, want to take a little bit of melatonin, I mean, don't make sure you're not too groggy in the morning. But if you're like, I'm having a really hard time, getting tired, just take a little bit, it can help too.
So, which leads me to taking vitamins. Ashwagandha.
Yeah, I love ashwagandha. Yeah, so, you mean explain it? Sorry, you go.
Oh, Yes. So I was going to say,
Yeah.
one, explain it. Two, what would your suggestion be? Because I've had friends who've taken different levels of it, and I've seen
like
the effects of it.
Like it's helped them.
Way too much.
Too much. Okay, I think I see where you're going. Okay. So I like ashwagandha because it's an adaptogen, which just means no matter what your cortisol is doing, right? You could have been going for 5 years. Your cortisol's crashed. It's in the toilet. It'll bring it up to where it's supposed to be. Okay. Or if you're like, really in that fight or flight, your cortisol's super high, it'll bring it down. So it's kind of, you're just kind of like, hey, let's see if this works, The only time I don't use ashwagandha is if someone has a lot of food sensitivities, because it's actually a nightshade. So people react to like tomatoes or eggplants, or they're like, it causes joint pain or, whatever. I try not to use ashwagandha there. And then there's like other supplements out there. But ideally if you're tired in the morning, probably need to take it in the morning when your cortisol is probably like not, going up.
Oh.
Yeah. So a lot of people, their cortisol, there's something called a cortisol awakening response. I think Dr. Roach talked about that too. So, so when you wake up within the first 30 minutes, our cortisol should be rising like pretty quickly. But a lot of us, because chronic stress, not getting enough sleep, we're just like, not, and then we're like, oh, I'm so tired in the morning. And then that's when we're awake at night, right? It's like it's backwards, our circadian rhythm. So that's where the morning sunlight really helps come in. And so then if you're like, okay, I've done the morning sunlight, I've done yoga, I've done some exercise, I've done all that, but I'm still not where I want to be, right? And that's when I'm like, okay, we've done all the lifestyle stuff. Let's bring in a supplement and see what happens, right? Because I get so many people who, they come to me with like a bag of like 30 things. And I made this mistake like early in my career too. I'd be like, oh, you have joint pain? Take fish oil, take turmeric or whatever. Instead of like, hey, like maybe you're eating inflammatory foods. Like, let's talk about that first. And if you're not going to change your diet, okay, let's maybe meet in the middle. I'll give you some supplements, but so it's not like a Band-Aid, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our house is in a really lovely neighborhood, and it's interesting because like the back of our house actually faces the sunrise.
Okay.
So
you can go out there, right?
Yes, but it kills me. I am a man of the quote unquote city. I don't like a lot of sunlight. And I'm like, I woke up too early, so I want to stay in the dark.
Think about our
as long as
ancestors,
possible.
right? That's what I tell people. I'm like, our ancestors, when the sun was going down, right, in the summer, which is nice, you're like, oh, I can stay up till 8:39 because the sun's still up. But when the sun starts going down, that's when you should be like, okay, like start getting ready for bed. Even you can go outside and watch the sun go down, and your brain's like, oh yeah, okay, got it. Like this is what's happening,
That's funny.
And then when the sun's coming up, that's when you should be like starting to wake up, because that's our, like, cavemen. That's what they did. Yeah.
I will say
back to the basics.
Our house is because the sun, like I said, the sun rises in our backyard, which is where our bedroom is.
Yeah.
And then it sets at the front of the house. So like our guest bedroom, the front of the house sees the sunset. And I'm like, it's very nice because you get that full.
Yeah. So yeah, you're set.
Yes.
So you just got to go outside.
Yes.
I'm just treating you. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Yes.
And I can't help it. On the street, I'll be like, oh, I need to tell that person to do that. And I'm like, no.
No, that's what I love. Cause like I grew up and I love random like science and history. And it's one of those things where I'm like, it'd be really nice to be in a spot where you can get that. Cause feng shui, people laugh about it. I'm like, oh, I'm like, no, it's a real thing. Like there's a reason why a lot of these people have great lives and long lives.
Yeah. Like I think before the 1950s, people were thin. They weren't super, like look back then, like most people were probably happier than they are today.
Yes.
And they were cooking, they were eating their meals as a family. You know what I mean? It's like, let's get back to that.
Eating more local stuff that came from the farms that were around them, and just not as sedentary lifestyles and everything.
And like a lot of times, like even I just learned like chickens, they aren't out in the sunshine. So their eggs, like if you open an egg and it's like super, like clear, like not like, pretty and yellow, probably doesn't have retinol, which is vitamin A. Yeah. And then you're not getting all the nutrients you should. So ideally when you crack open an egg, it should be like yellow and bright and beautiful. And I'm like, our eggs aren't like that. Right?
It should be orange.
Yeah. And so you pay like $9 now for organic pasture raised eggs. And I'm like, oh, these are pretty. But that was $10 and I could have spent $3 or whatever.
My parents have a bunch of chickens. So
jealous.
they have
Are they
eggs.
pretty?
They're beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I'll buy some from you.
There was one time like their chickens got like kind of sick or something. So they didn't lay that much until they got better.
Yeah.
And so I had to buy my own eggs. Darn.
So mad.
I know. And I cracked it open. I'm like,
what is this? You're like, this is an egg.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, this looks nasty.
Yeah, there's this crazy statistic. So a squash in the 1920s, right, a yellow squash, had 100% of the daily value vitamin A, right? Like how much vitamin A you need in a day. Now it has 0.
That's
you believe
crazy.
that? Just from like over farming, they don't rest the crops, right?
Yeah.
So like the crops need to like replenish and renourish. They don't do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I think a lot of people are like, well, do I need to supplement? And usually I'm like, most people need at least some supplements because you just can't get enough in your food.
Right.
But also you can't out supplement a bad diet either. Right. So it's like, you gotta do both. Yeah.
I mean, we had a fella on a couple months ago who helps people like start their own like homesteads.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
And I'm like,
Oh, I should go listen to that one.
Yeah.
I love that
It was really cool. Yeah.
it was one of those, it was during our 75 hard series, which I think is kind of interesting where neither of us drink. So we're asking these questions to grow our personalities. And this whole last 2 seasons or so, I would say has all been very health conscious, which is funny because we're drinking on the podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone's like, you can still be
all about balance
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's what I say. I'm like, I miss those seesaws. Like kids
What do you
these days need a seesaw
Oh, yeah.
Because-
yeah.
because it shows you like true balance and it also will knock you in the fucking face when you're not paying attention.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, look, 80-20 rule, right? Or 90-10 if you want.
Right.
So you're not going to be perfect all the time, right? Like you can't do keto for 4 months straight. Well, maybe after 75 hard. You can, whatever. After that, then you're going to fall off and you're going to probably end up back where you were. So like, let's, take Friday and Saturday off or, whatever it may be. Yeah. Like you can't do it. Yeah. You have to, seesaw. Exactly.
Yeah. That'd be reasonable.
I just remember growing up and like the seesaw, everyone would jump on it and you're like, oh, this and that nice balance. And then that person who jumps off of the seesaw and just slams. Kids these days will never understand.
Funny, I tell people their immune system's like that, like a seesaw. Yeah.
Okay.
So like if you, stress, right? Like remember during COVID, everyone was like the cytokine storm. That's what was making everyone so sick. That was where that immune system was like, bam, like with the seesaw.
Yeah.
That's what I was literally I would think about. So yeah, we're like, okay, let's like get the seesaw back, right? Like get it in balance.
Yeah.
Everything's homeostasis, which is like,
I like that.
homeostasis.
The science person in me is like, ooh, so the water's not going this way or that way.
Yeah, just chilling.
Yes.
And I know this is kind of off topic a little bit, but I know you're big in your faith. Does that make a big impact in kind of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and the functional?
I mean, I would say a lot of people come to me and it's like, I try and focus on body, mind, spirit. So I think a lot of times people are good in their body, maybe, but their mind's not good, right? Even their mindset of like, oh, I'm tired. Well, yeah, you're always gonna be tired if you're thinking every day I'm tired or oh, I'm depressed, which, I mean, people are depressed, but if you're thinking those thoughts, then your body's gonna follow suit, right?
Right.
And then I think spiritual too, if, at least what I believe is, God's our provider and, he's just our comforter. And so I think without that, you're kind of like, who do I listen to? Who do I trust? So I see a lot of people are, when they're spiritually sound, they get quicker a lot better. Or faster. Yeah.
Better a lot.
Better, a lot faster, quicker.
Yeah, there you go. You said quicker a lot better. I was like,
a lot better, quicker.
Yep.
Yeah.
which is interesting because I've always, I grew up in church. And I think that's one of the things, like, as long as you have a connection, especially like you said, going outside connects you. Even
and like God's in nature, right?
Yeah.
Like you're meeting him there. Yeah. That's where I feel closest to him.
Exactly. Me too.
Yeah.
even if you live in the hood and it's all cement, just getting outside and getting
Getting
sunlight
in
is
nature.
very good for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. God's pretty cool.
It's all meant to be around you for a reason, right?
Yes, exactly. And we're just putting up buildings and concrete, right? So, I know.
There's a song about that.
Country.
Sorry, I was
Yellow
thinking,
Taxi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was
I think
thinking
I know what you're
Paradise
of,
put up a parking
Oh,
lot.
Yep.
I was thinking of Alicia Keys.
That's what I was like when I was like, what song is it?
Not that one.
That's an oldie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna need to find that song.
That's like what, like 90s maybe?
Yeah.
Or 2000s?
Probably.
Hey, Google.
When he was a kid.
Yeah, when I was a kid. We're the same ages, essentially.
No, we're not. So talking about going back to being a kid, because I like to do the whole whoop,
Yeah.
go back.
Counting Crows, Big Yellow Taxi.
Oh, it was Counting Crows. I forgot about that. Loved them.
Yeah, I didn't listen to them.
I was like, what is he doing?
Yes, you got that.
Got
joke.
it. I got it. Yeah, I'm a little gullible sometimes.
I was gonna play it, but then I don't want to get a strike.
Yeah, please don't.
Oh,
We've done so well. Yeah.
Please don't do that to us.
That is crazy that you're like that strict about it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very. You can't even play 10 seconds of it.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's
Good to
why
know. I'm never going to probably podcast, but good to know.
I mean, if you ever want to podcast, we have a whole studio
Yeah.
with all the equipment.
Okay.
So you're
good,
set up.
Good to know.
Cargo
It's
Studios.
a really great spot.
So going back, growing up
Yeah.
in a brain fog
Yeah.
because you were on so many meds.
Yeah.
So do you think you are a good like resource for a lot of people who think their kids are in that same position nowadays? Like, do you work
Yeah.
with kids or are you more
Yeah.
adults?
I definitely don't like. I like pediatrics, but they're not like my specialty. So
Okay.
I'll see 5 and up. A lot of times it's gut health stuff. So, a lot of times kids are eating goldfish and Kool-Aid and it's like, hey, let's like get some veggies and fruit in there too, And so, yeah, a lot of times their gut's messed up. So I kind of meet them there. And I think that, a lot of times our gut's our second brain. So looking back, I probably had brain fog from just all the stuff I was taking, but also, I had so many antibiotics. Like when I learned I was gluten dairy free, I was like, Mom gave me cheese toast every morning and toaster strudels. Like, no wonder.
Cheese toast
I was
so good.
yeah,
though.
right. I was like, no wonder I was so jacked up though. Like I, find this
Yes.
out later. And me and my mom always like joke, we're like, look at all those things we did. Like, it's just, it's crazy when you like, and that's what I try and give people a lot of time, like in their history. And when we talk about their history, like, hey, like take me back to the beginning. Like, let's go through so we know all of your kind of joke. It's like a toxic bucket, right? We have this bucket and we're going to throw like, okay, you were a kid, you had a lot of antibiotics, right? Okay. Then you had, whatever else happened to you, and you kind of throw this in a toxic bucket, and then everyone's like, well, I kind of like fell apart. I'm like, well, what happened? Oh, well, it was stress, or I got in a moldy building, right? And it's like makes your toxic bucket overflow. So it's like, what little things can we take out? And I'm always like, let's do the free stuff first, right? Like let's do the lifestyle medicine first, and then try and keep digging, right? And I'm always like root cause resolution, like let's find out why, right? Is it you had a tick bite and then that you had Lyme disease, right? Or like Hurricane Florence came through. I had so many people, Hurricane Florence came through, destroy their house, and it wasn't properly remediated. So then they have mold, right? But I'm like, you can't get rid of your mold, right? You can't detox it. You can't get rid of your Lyme disease unless we get you into parasympathetic, fix your diet, all the basic stuff first. So that's really where I try and focus. So I don't know if I went off on a tangent, but
That's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
I forgot it now. Sorry.
Perfect. So within your business,
Yeah.
like what would you qualify as like success?
I think anyone who just comes to me and feels a little bit better, or a lot better. I think wellness is a journey, so, a lot of times I think people are like, oh, if I just get to this place, then I'll be good. Right. And then you get there and you're like, wow, I'm feeling really good. But like, oh, I could feel even better. So then it's like, that's kind of the journey I've been on is like, oh, wow, I like did all this stuff, but I could do that and feel like that.
Yes.
So just looking back on like, I couldn't make it through a full day's work without taking a nap or being super tired. And now I'm like, wow, I think I have too much energy, I'm like ready to go every day. So I just want other people to feel like that too, like the mom who comes to me and it's like, hey, I can't play with my kid, I'm so tired or I have so much joint pain or my back hurts. I can't even play with my kid. And I'm like, that's not we want you to live life to the full. Yes. Right. And so that's really where I try and focus is like, hey, let's like get you to where, like, what are your goals though? Right. Like I have my agenda in the back of my head, but I'm going to listen to your, your goals and what you want to do. So if I'm like, hey, I think you should do this, but you want to work on this, like we're going to do what you want to do. Like it's your body, right? You're the patient.
Yeah. So where can people find you so they can interact and try and get these questions answered?
So it's breakthroughfunctional.com. And I actually have a discovery call for 30 minutes. So that's where we just make sure we're a good fit. I'm always honest. I'm like, hey, I could help you, but I think if you went and saw this person first, you'd get like immediate relief and then come see me. So last week, my husband's always like, you're a terrible businesswoman. And I'm like, no, I want people to get better, right? That's like my whole motive and goal. So this girl called me, said, hey, I'm having abdominal pain. And I was like, hey, go see this person who will do visceral massage, make sure all your valves and your stuff's working. But hey, I think I could really help you on this part. And you probably are still having some gut issues. Yep. So I definitely think I could help you with that. But like these people might give you rapid relief. So like go do that first and then report back,
Which reminds me, we are due for a Miracle on 34th Street remake.
What does that mean?
The movie?
Yes. So what I mean by that is I love that movie, and that's how I live my life, especially at work. Is if I can't do it for you, like in the quote unquote remake from like the 90s, Chris Kringle couldn't find you. Like it's like, oh, I don't have the toy for you. I don't have the best deal. Go down the street. They'll take care of you. Yeah. Or go here and do that. I wish more people had that mindset of like, it's not about making the money. It's about helping you get what you need.
Because then you'll either refer someone else to me, or, I'll see your kid or whatever it may be, or, come see me while you see these other people who are going to help you with things that I might not be able to, So I'm always like super upfront and like, hey, I can help with this, but you might want to go see this person too for this issue. Or like, hey, your neck's really hurting. You probably should go see a chiropractor, right? Like, I don't know. I can help you with the joint pain that's maybe coming from your foods, or, give you a supplement that might help. But, you might want to go see a chiropractor and get adjusted too. Right.
So kind of going off that same vein too, before I get to my last question, is if you were to create your like perfect patient to walk through the door, what would that look like?
Really someone, who's gone the traditional route, right? They've gotten the checkup. They're like, we don't know what's wrong with you. You're having fatigue, joint pain, bloating, reflux, any like sort of vague symptom, brain fog. And the doctor's like, well, it's probably just IBS, or, it's probably just you're stressed. Go take some deep breaths. And then you're like, yeah, but how? Like you need someone to like walk you through that. So really, I don't try and put myself in a box like, oh, I just treat gut health, or I just treat this. I really try and be like, let's just chat and we'll see if we're a good fit. And then, just anyone who's wanting, to feel healthier, right? Really.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I was thinking about that too, because Bill reached out to me today and found out that sounds like Mackenzie's going to get on a call and possibly talk to Coach Reggie.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
And we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
It's like everyone, like you can live life like me, like just raw dogging it, just living the best life. But the best people, the top people in their industry have a coach.
Right.
Like LeBron James. Like, he's LeBron James. He does amazing, but he still is a coach, an assistant coach. He still works out with somebody.
Support,
So, like, we all need to get back to that point where we're having a support system.
And just they're, wiser than me with business. I'm always like, I'm not a business gal. I just was like, hey, I'm not in an environment that I want to be, so I'm going to start my own business, right? And do it my way. But also I'm going to focus on patience and what I'm good at and what I've been trained in. And then I will, get wisdom and insight from other people.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So thanks.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So shout out to Papa Reggie.
Yeah.
Papa Reggie.
Yes.
Business growers, go check them out.
Yes.
So my official final question then, if you were to tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
So I think it would just be to enjoy the journey. So I think a lot of times, at least for me, I'm always like so future minded.
Yeah.
Like, what's the next step? What am I doing? Like, I got my business off the ground, and then I was like, all right, what's next? And my therapist was like, chill out, like just take a breath, And so, really just trying to be like present, enjoy where I'm at. And I think other people can be really stuck in their past, right? Like in shame, or like, I did this, like, and just reminisce on it, And I'm like, let's just be present and do the best we can, and one step at a time, right?
Yeah. I love it. That's good.
Yeah.
I always forget about that. Like we're like you said, everyone's always looking forward or looking back.
Right. It's like, let's enjoy the moment.
Yeah. They're not looking
like,
at the gift.
I'm enjoying this moment. Like, so it's fun.
Good.
Yeah. I can be like, hey, I was on a podcast once. That was cool.
Shout out.
Now that you're on this one, I'm sure you'll have plenty of other offers now too.
Y'all are awesome. This was really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if your next one will have alcohol.
Probably not.
Yeah.
We try though.
Yeah, thanks for the tequila.
Yes.
Anytime.
I'm like, no whiskey, please. Oh yeah, you finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
I bought
I'm
you
over here-
tequila.
I'm
You're
over
like,
here
you
pointing.
better finish it.
Yes. Like we don't leave alcohol on the table here
Okay.
unless it's really shitty.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was good.
Good.
I'm
Vomit
not
freezes.
in my 20s anymore.
Right.
You're like, you're fine.
You're like
Over.
Just
you're
barely.
half a step past it.
Yes.
You're fine.
Yeah, I'm good.
We got you. But yes, you shouted out your business.
Yes, breakthroughfunctional.com. And then I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and that's Breakthrough Functional too.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a cool, finding my name was super cool too.
Breakthrough Functional.
Yeah, so I had this other name picked out, and someone in the community had it. And so I was like, dang it, I'm going to have to start from scratch. So I was in church, and I was just like, oh, I don't know what it's going to be. Whatever. I'm like, God, what do you want it to be?
Yeah.
And this song comes on, and it was called Breakthrough. And my husband like hits me, and he's like, hey, I think that'd be good. Like breakthrough. People need like breakthrough from their health too.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah,
Oh,
that's great.
perfect.
And then no one had it, like, LLC, like wasn't copyrighted or whatever. And I was like, all right, thanks God. That was helpful. Cause I was like, I don't know what it's going to be. I was like at a loss,
Yeah.
So do you take most insurances?
No, I'm only cash. So I was insurance, I guess, for like 3 years. And I think I talked to Tyler about this. I really just felt like I would just kind of like, it'd be like a 30-minute visit. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I could talk to you for like another hour, And I just saw it didn't work. And I think they say 97% of functional providers don't take insurance. Isn't that crazy? Because they just put you in a box and it's like, hey, you have this much time. And then I was coming home working all night and I was like, this just isn't going to work. I'm going to get burnt out, So when another practice in town that I knew of was shutting down, I was like, okay. And I started praying about it. Like, is this something I'm supposed to do? And literally God was like, here you go. I mean, business model, name, everything. And I was like, okay, guess I'm supposed to do this. I never literally thought I would be here. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. So I'm all cash, but I do give an invoice that people can submit to their insurance and see if they'll reimburse them. Yeah. But I think a lot of the people you've had on the podcast, like the medical system is obviously broken. And so I think, for acute needs, I'm like, if someone calls me and is like, hey, I'm having excruciating abdominal pain, go to the ER, right? Like, what am I going to do? But yeah, after that, it's kind of like, the system's broken. We're stuck in this insurance model and it's just got to do something. Yeah. So we're all kind of going to cash.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
Where I sit there and talk about the insurance industry.
I know.
I heard that Blue Cross Blue Shield is finally starting to get their act together though, and accept more functional and everything as well.
I only know one practice and they're in Winston, the practice I went to. But they only take Blue Cross and Aetna, maybe. Okay. That's it. Like they won't take United, they won't take Medicare. So it's like kind of a hybrid too,
Yeah. I think people are starting to realize that if you can kind of get the root cause of it, you're saving a lot of money
in the end
on surgeries and stuff. I'm sure this insurance
And I was like, is that going to help you too? Like, the surgery might help you, but is it going to fix the root cause?
Right.
Like, is it going to keep coming back?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I've learned, like I said, this past like 2 seasons of like, you need to, despite the fact that I hate going to the doctor, like you need to get out there.
Yeah.
And if you want to live a great life and spend time and be ahead of the issues, you got to see somebody.
Yeah, for sure.
And technically, it's probably better for you to not use your insurance. But I just want to say thank you for coming on
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, hope you learned something.
Absolutely, every time.
You're going to get in the sun, Chris? It's like, no. Just in the morning. Like
it's the easiest.
5 minutes. It's free, man. You won't have to come see me.
True. We went on our honeymoon and I tried to put sunblock on and I had the worst.
Oh, did you have toxic sunscreen? Probably. Tyler's like,
you look at it, like we said earlier, I didn't grow up with a lot of sunscreen. But
we can always put like an umbrella up or like a hat on,
Yeah. Well, the last time I went to the beach, it was in Cancun. Well, I've been since then, but we went to Cancun, put some sunscreen.
I'm like, you live at the beach.
Well, no, I went and like I came back and I had like a rash.
From the sunscreen.
We don't know.
Or maybe you had sun poisoning. So you know what you should do? You should check your vitamin D levels. I have a lot of African American patients who their vitamin D is deficient. Sorry. Has Tyler been telling you this?
No,
I was like, he's laughing at you.
I was going to say something.
Oh. I was like, Tyler's like.
I knew exactly where Chris's head was at.
No muss.
Get that part out.
I do want to say thank you.
Yeah,
like I said,
thank you.
Even though we've had multiple functional docs on, we've learned something different from everybody.
Good. I hope you learned something. Yeah. If I leave one thing left, like a tip, I try and I always tell people to maximize the good things, minimize the bad, and then prioritize like your stress and your sleep. So that's kind of my like motto I give people. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Love it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So with that, please follow us on social media. Check us out, like, comment, share. Leave us a great 5-star review. And if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
That's right.
But yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, I was like, ready.